Alright, the long and short of it. Been getting heaps of questions lately about the right size SUP foil board. And because it has changed so much over the years, we went from riding super long ones down to going as short as we possibly can and then going back to long again. And yeah, I guess it gets a bit confusing at times as to what is the perfect board for what condition. So we're going to quickly run over a couple of different variations and see if we can help out and answer a few people's questions when they're trying to get into it. Let's get straight into it. We'll start with the shorter side on the boards. So this is a good example, 5'10", 22 inches wide. Very good as a SUP wave foiling board. Now, in saying that, I actually have paddled this board for nearly a couple of years now and used it in the early days as part of my downwind board. And it works perfectly. Like, it works fine, it gets up easy in the downwind bumps and it foils, it feels amazing once on the bump. So why is it now gone more as a wave riding board? Well, that's because the longer boards have come in. So the longer the board, more waterline, easy to get up, just makes downwinding that little bit more enjoyable, saves grinding it out at the start if the conditions aren't perfect. So the board like this now then has gone back to just purely being more wave riding orientated. And it does an amazing job. So what you want to look for in a SUP wave riding board is you want to go as short as you possibly can without going too short. And I myself, I've been there, I've gone too short. Like, for a long time I was riding my 5 foot wingboard, which is 5 foot 26 inches wide, and it worked pretty well as once up on the foil. But what I found over time is it took a bit of the fun away from the paddling around, standing around side and catching the wave side. So at 5 foot, the board's super short and it's very nose and tail pitch sensitive in the water. So if you lean forward, you push the nose under, lean back, no, it goes under. So it kind of gets awkward to paddle. And the board speed is so low that you've got to be in the impact zone or right with the surface sit to catch the waves. And I'm probably like most, but I prefer just to sit out wide and catch some more of the swells and then turn and go into the waves. So for me, I'm 78 kilos, and that's what I found at the 5'10" mark. A board I can catch just about any kind of swell on, and it doesn't hinder me in my pumping and my turning and everything else. So it's probably the best all-round size at my weight that I can find. It still paddles as fast as any 5'10" can. So you got to remember that your paddle speed is determined by your board length. You don't need to paddle at Mach 1 speed to catch waves. You've just got to have enough glide to match the swell a little bit to chip in and off you go. And that's what this does really well. So that's that side of things. I'll go a little bit more into a couple other things on the downside on that in a minute as well as we progress into the longer board. So next up is the long one, so 7'2", 17.5 wide. Talk about stability first. So as you go longer, you can go narrower, and you still get the same stability. So both of these are mine. That's 23 inches wide, 17.5, and they're about the same in stability as each other. Both same volume at 94 litres. So you just got to remember, by going long, you don't need to have the same width board, because every time you can reduce the water surface tension and stuff like that, you're gonna get a little bit faster paddling board. So it all helps. Now, downwinding, perfect. It just helps chip into those bumps, just that little bit easier. You can use smaller foils. And a good example of that one is this is our 1000 wing, which I use for most things. On the 510, I can't really get this up on the flat water. It's not fun, it's grindy, the board just doesn't produce enough instant flat water speed. 7.2, I can get this up no worries. And that's because it's got the waterline length, so I can get it up to speed over a very short period of distance to match the wing to take off. And that's why we're going longer for the downwind boards. So you can ride smaller foils, get them up, match the ocean speeds, and all that kind of stuff. You know, obviously you can make it even easier, and you can put a big foil on this board, and you're going to get up even easier again. So it's all relevant, obviously. Yeah. So back to the stability side of things. They're about the same. So obviously, if you're going for a longer board, you can knock 1 inch or 2 inches off on your width. The other thing that the longer board gives you is it can help with paddling straighter. So a lot of people, if they don't come from a stand-up paddle background, they struggle with the paddling straight. And if you're on a 510, you'll find that it zigzags a lot. And a lot of people, when they first jump on it, might only do 1-2 strokes each side, which is really no good. When you're paddling a sub foil board, 90% or 95% of your paddling is done on one side. So if you're changing sides with your paddle, it's really a no-go. It's not how it's done. The longboard allows you to get away with that a bit more. So it's just a longer board, it tracks a little bit straighter, makes technique a little bit easier as well. The other thing is it's narrower the board, easy to put your paddle straight up and down, paddle straight up and down, straighter you go. But that's all the technique based stuff. Downsides to the longer boards, same thing they've always been. From the early days, the reason we went shorter is we wanted to be able to pump around better. I can still catch waves anywhere with this. I can still pump around and link waves and do all that kind of thing. It's not impossible. It's just nowhere near as fun, you know. And if I have my choice any day of the week to catch waves, I'll take the 510 egg any day of the week. If I didn't have that in the car, or I had this in the car and I wanted to catch waves, it still works and it's still fun. It's just not as much fun. So those are just the things to keep in mind. Both boards will do both things. You know, this wind wing's fine as well. It's just a wind wing board, wind wing's better. This downwind's better. So that's where the compromises all come in.